going to open the meeting with just a housekeeping item. We have a few expenses that I need to get approval on. I'd be looking for a motion to approve bills to the community advocate for the February 26, 2024 legal notices for $443.30. And in addition, again, to the community advocate for the January 23rd, 2023 legal notices for $98.45.
Move to approve?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Might I get a motion to approve the minutes that were distributed reflecting the December 18th, 2023 meeting?
Move to approve?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Great. All right. Moving into the 6:30 agenda. First hearing. This is to hear the appeal of Renan Rash of 19 Shady Lane, Shrewsbury, Mass. 01545 for a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 4B, to alter and extend a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling by constructing a second-floor addition upon property located at 19 Shady Lane in the Residence B1 zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 27, Plot 222000. Mr. Rosh, are you in attendance? Can you please step forward?
Can I go with him?
Absolutely, for sure. There's 2 seats right here. Take a seat. Welcome.
Thank you.
You could give us a little overview of what you're looking to have us consider tonight.
Okay, I made one presentation, but I'm not sure. I'll try to explain first for be more clear. So right now, let me try.
Oh, they can plug in, right?
Can they? Would it be okay if we shared your screen?
Oh, okay. Sure.
I think there's a plug. Maybe not?
Well, we might have a,
No, they don't have a
no,
link.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Okay, I'll try if you guys want. I can. Okay.
okay.
So that's the house that we have right now. Right now we have front yard with 24.6 feet, and the side yard 9.9. That's the new project. What they want to do. This part is the part that we're talking about, because right now we have a roof that actually do like that, and we want to, instead of take it off that roof and just go up and make in this space a new room. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Right now we have a roof, and this roof is gonna create a new room over here. I'm not sure.
We also have this in our Google.
Okay.
So, but thank you, this is
Okay.
helpful.
So the front yard is gonna stay the same. It's still gonna be 24.6. Nothing's gonna change, because that's the second floor, so it's gonna be built up to the whatever we have on the floor. So it's gonna keep the same. I just show both sides to show that the front yard is not gonna change with any addition that we're gonna do it. So we're doing, besides that addition in the front, we're doing another addition in the back and in the side. And these additions, we are keeping the law. We're keeping the 10 feet. And actually, these 10 feet is going to be very strange, because it's 1 feet then different. But we're keeping, because that's actually his addition. But on the top is one addition, but it's a different addition. We just try and change it, the roof, to make it more space. So for the addition, in the other sides, we're keeping everything that's say by the law. 30 feet, everything the same. So side yard is still gonna be 10, and on the front yard is gonna be 30, like say in the law. So this is the project if we follow the law. So on the top, instead of we use this space, it's gonna be a roof. And we're gonna lose this space. So that's the roof right now. We're gonna keep it, you see, without anything. And the front yard is gonna keep it the same, 24.6, everything the same. So that's the difference between both projects, the one we wanted and the one that is by the law. So this one is the second floor with using this space as a room, and this one is just putting a roof. Both has the same front yard, nothing changes. So the street has two houses similar to the one that we are building. So actually, when he bought the house and he decided to change, he followed by the street. So he looked at the street house and said, oh, okay, let's try do one house similar. So when he decided to do like extend the second floor, he was following the houses on the street. So it's not gonna change, it's not doing something different that already we have, but it's just following exactly what we have over there. So the two houses, 7 shade and 9 shade. The houses that are similar. And that's just a final observation why he wanted this space. Because right now the house has 1,403 feet. In the new project that we want to do is 3,179.2. And if we fill it by the law, it's going to be 2,979.2. So he's going to lose 200 feet in with this space. His family is a really big family because they have 4 kids and 2 adults. No, 5 kids and 2 adults. Yeah. Sorry. So they have a lot of kids. So this space maybe not seems like be too much, but it's almost a room. So for them makes a lot of difference because they have a lot of kids, and the ages is not the same. So they need at least 4 rooms in the house because they have 2 teenagers, 2 children, one girl, teenager, plus the adults. So at least 4 rooms is necessary in the house. So this space they will lost is not gonna make any difference on the street. I think so. I'm not sure because, but I don't think it's gonna change any design, anything on the street. But for them, it's gonna make a difference because they need the space. So I tried to make that just for clarify everything. Sorry if I said something wrong. I'm Brazilian, so I don't speak a lot.
You did a great job. You did a great job, and we appreciate it. It was great information. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. O'Neill, anything else that we need to know?
No, I don't think so. Just special permit for the alteration and extension of the pre-existing non-conforming dwelling. I will note a couple, just the waiver list, just E and O, which it's not necessary on the plot plans for property lines and locations of buildings of abutting properties directly across the street. That was missing. And then where's the other one? O, which is the drainage calculations. So,
So we need to include those waivers in our decision.
correct.
Okay. All right. All right. Can I get comments maybe from the board before we open up to public discussion? Peter?
Sure. Great presentation. Thanks so much. That was really helpful. You're here for a special permit, so the requirements are a little bit less stringent than for variance. I don't see any issues here in terms of odor, vibration, noise, anything like that. It doesn't derogate from the purposes of the bylaw, and it looks like it'll fit nicely into the neighborhood, so I have no issues.
Ann?
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. It was very helpful to see the difference in the houses if you built it in conformity with the law versus as requested by the variance. It seems that it's just you're seeking a variance of less than 5 feet, I think, in the front setback for an addition, so I don't have any problem with that.
Thank you.
I don't either. My comments resonate with my colleagues before me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. It was great. This is your special permit. You're going up, not out. So I don't see any issues.
Good. Let's roll.
And I would agree, you did a great job presenting all the information to us, so we appreciate that. So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay. Can I get a motion to close public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And might I get a motion with waivers included, please?
Sure. I move to approve a special permit under Section 4B to alter and extend a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling by constructing a second-floor addition as well as waivers under subsections E and O for 19 Shady Lane Avenue in the Residence B1 District.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, congratulations. Okay, next hearing. This is to hear the appeal of Raja Raghavan of 62 North Quincy Ave, Shrewsbury, Mass. For a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 4B, to expand a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling 37 feet from the rear property line where 40 feet is required, and a side yard setback of 7.5 feet from where a 10-yard is required upon property located at 62 North Quincy Ave in the zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 31, Plot 141000, and I believe it's a resident B1 district, if I'm not mistaken.
B2.
B2, excuse me. Welcome.
Hi, welcome, thank you.
Thank you. Tell us what you're going to be doing.
Okay, this one I'm reapplying for this permit. I actually got approved in September 2021. I think we missed the deadline of 2 years, so we started planning in the month of June, and then in December, we found out that the 2-year expiry date, and what we are planning to do it is like on the porch. I have a porch, I'm just removing that porch, and then extra, I'm adding a room, additional room over there. And then I have existing on my first floor, I have a 40 by 16, so I'm just adding a second floor. So that will give me my kitchen. I'm just moving my kitchen and improvised kitchen. And on the second floor, I will have around 2 bedrooms.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. O'Neill?
No question, no comments, really. It's just the same application that was before the board, same setbacks.
Great. Any conversation, Peter?
No, if there are no changes from the previous application, I was fine with it then, I'm fine with it now.
Ann?
I agree with Peter.
Kevin?
I wasn't on the board then, but I will trust the decision of the members before me then.
Thank you. David?
Same as everybody else.
Wonderful. We're all agreeable tonight. You're all very lucky.
Oh, sure thing.
Okay, wonderful.
Can I have one request, please?
Yes, please.
It would be of great help if the special permit and the end date is mentioned when it is approved. So it will help us saying that, okay, it's going to expire and I have to do something.
I think it'll be on there, right?
That is included on all decisions.
Okay, is it not? That's September 2021, I didn't
Yeah.
have it. It was just mentioned special permit, but I came to know only from our zoning bylaw PDF file. From that, I came to know that, okay, it expires in 2 years from the time of special permit. So I was just, even my
It was 2 years from, yeah.
Even my contractor did not know it. So we had to wait for almost around 3 months to find out that one.
We hope it doesn't take you 2 years again.
No, hope
Got to
so.
get going.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, yep, so let's, this is a public hearing, so let's see if there's anyone that wishes to be heard on this matter. Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And might I get a motion, please?
I move to approve a special permit to expand, or under section 4B, to expand a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling 37 feet from the rear property line where 40 feet is required, and a side yard setback of 7 5/10 feet where 10 feet is required, at 62 North Quinsigamond Avenue, Residence B2 District.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, next public hearing. This is to hear the appeal of Frank Panarelli of 19 Whippoorwill Drive, Shrewsbury, Mass. For a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 4B, to construct a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling upon property located at 19 Whippoorwill Drive in the Residence B1 zoning district. Subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 23, Plot 321000. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Hi, Frank Panarelli.
Hi.
Hi, Francesca Channel.
Let us know what you'd like to do.
Actually, we had a building permit already in with Patty, and as we were doing the project, we noticed a lot of damage to the walls that were supposed to be kept up. So we put new 2x6 construction in there. We submitted plans to Patty for the new plans, and she approved those. So she said to come to the meeting, so. Not really sure exactly what we have to,
Yes, so we kept there's no extending closer to the street. We're still within kind of the existing foundation. It just needed to be replaced 2x4s into 2x6 because of water damage. So we had to replace everything in order for it to be more secure, more efficient, and safer for our family. And so that was the decision that was made in order for it to be more effectively a safer home, rather than building a home on rotted wood.
so it basically moved in. It didn't move out. It's still the same square footage and all of that.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill?
Yep, so, it, just the special permit for the pre-existing non-conforming dwelling, the front yard setback is the, non-conformity, and because, everything was taken down to the foundation, like the.
It was the
you
first floor.
said,
Yeah.
the building inspectors noticed that, and informed them due to that, they needed to come to the zoning board just to.
And we resubmitted
them
the
know.
new plans to Patty for the 2x6 construction.
Yep, we have those in our file.
Great.
Okay. Discussion, Peter?
Yeah, was the house demolished?
No.
No.
We took it down
Okay.
to the first floor decking.
To the first floor decking?
And then we
Okay.
went in the back and put in
I
a
see.
foundation and extended the house that way.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Mm-hmm.
No issues for me. Thank you.
Ann?
I have no issues.
Kevin?
No, doesn't seem to make the non-conformity any worse, so I'm fine with it.
David?
Yeah, no issues.
Okay. It's a no-issue night.
You'll love to hear it.
Okay, perhaps there's a neighbor that would like to comment? Okay, no one's even commenting tonight, so we'll have, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move to close the public hearing?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Can I get a motion, please? No waivers, correct?
Okay. I move to approve a special permit under Section 4B to reconstruct a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling at 19 Whippoorwill Drive, Residence B1 District.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, this is to hear the appeal of Richard Ricker of 11 Maple Avenue in Shrewsbury for a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 4B, to maintain the existing non-conforming number of parking spaces upon property located at 504-512 Boston Turnpike in the Commercial Business Zoning District. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 33, Plot 091000. Good evening. State your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Richard Ricker, and as she stated, I'm an attorney with offices at 11 Maple Avenue. I'm here tonight with Debbie Marazzo, who is representing Tabit. She's here as their representative. This is a special permit request that arises as a result of the parking at this particular plaza and a change of tenant. So it arises as a result of a tenant change, basically. The tenant that was there, many of us know, was Deja Brew. They have recently vacated, and so now there's an Indian-themed restaurant that wants to go in there. The plans before you show a 25-seat restaurant, and it is the same space as Deja Brew is going to take. The requirements of the zoning bylaw actually are less parking for the restaurant than they were for Deja Brew. So this is actually a reduction of the parking. However, parking is non-conforming by the nature of the site. Some of us may recall it, but probably not too many here. As the old Phalo Plastics, Bumblebee Plastics neighborhood, when it was a factory way back when. So this is an old factory building that has been repurposed over the years. Parking has always been an issue there from day one. As I said, this is a special permit. This is actually a change that will reduce the parking requirement there. This also would entail 4 signage spots in front of this restaurant, which would be dedicated to this particular restaurant. Some of the tenants have chosen to do that there. This restaurant would like to do that. The only exterior changes, frankly, would be the new sign, which, as you know, requires a sign permit, which would be separate from this. And there will be a new handicapped space laid out for van handicap, together with the striping, the associated striping next to that. We did have a Zoom conference with the building department and the planning department about this. We all agreed that this would be a special permit request. We had considerable discussion about the plans. The plan requests were adhered to, and the plan changes were made prior to us filing this, and I think that's all set in that respect. So this is really another one of those interior renovation, alteration type of deals, and there's really no exterior change except a reduction in the required parking. I would suggest respectfully that there is no derogation to the bylaw, because this use is a conforming use within the zone, and does not entail an addition of any kind of nuisance by virtue of noise, odor, additional traffic other than what you see on Route 9. So with that, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Louise, any additional info for us?
No, that about sums it up. It was caught through the administrative site plan review with the planning board, so it was just through building and planning and engineering, so.
Okay. Peter, questions?
Yeah. How many spaces are we currently off by with the Deja Brew? And compared to what's required?
Gonna ask me a question now? You want to ask a question?
Sorry, I'm looking at the plan and I see there's a breakdown here, but I'm having trouble figuring out. It looks like overall for the whole building, but you're not responsible for the whole building.
Right, all I know is that this is a reduction of 4 spaces
Okay,
by virtue of the change.
yeah. Just trying to see how far off we
I think
are.
it's actually more than that. I'm looking at the plot plan here, and just under the change of use, Peter, there's a section of existing use for Deja Brew. It says currently requires 28, and the proposed tenant is 16. So it
Yeah,
looks like it's
16,
even less.
right, so it's quite a bit
It's
less.
less.
Yeah. No, okay. No, I get that. I was just trying to figure out how much closer are we getting, how far
I don't think
off are we?
I don't think, Peter, you're ever gonna get there on this
Yeah,
particular site.
yeah.
Because of the nature of the site. I mean, you've got a huge building here and uses all around it, so.
Right.
I think,
Yeah, for the entire property, it
59,
looks like the total,
214.
the total required is 214, and the total proposed is 158, but you're not responsible for all of those. The way I look at it is we're moving in the right direction, so I think
Right.
I'm fine with it.
right.
Ann?
I agree with Peter.
Is the addition of the van accessible space taking up a space as well for?
Does take up a little bit of extra space, yes.
Okay. No, I think it's good to have it because this site is certainly lacking it. Again, moving in the right direction, even taking a space there, so I don't have any issues.
David?
I agree with Peter. I think the use is going in the right direction. I'm very familiar with this stretch of Route 9, as I'm sure most people in this room are. And it's unfortunate where it's at, but I can't hold all of the failings of Route 9 to just you. So be that as it may, like I said, it's going in the right direction, so I don't have any other issues.
I think it helps people get very creative about how to back up, because I've seen some interesting,
It certainly does.
yeah, it really does. So you're going in the right direction. I'm going to use my peers' same word, so I have no issues
And they're not
at all.
sitting there just concentrating on beer.
Yes, that's true. That might have been all the creative uses of backing up. All right. This is a public hearing, and is there anyone that wishes to be heard on this matter? All right. Can I get a motion to close the public?
I believe there are a couple waivers requested
Oh,
as well. If I'm not mistaken.
Let me see.
names and addresses of direct abutters, things like that.
Yeah, I think that,
Okay. It looks like it's D, E, F, and G, and K.
and I think that he reviewed this with,
We did, and I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure we captured it. I think
Yeah.
it, for the most part, it's
I think there was
fine,
so
but-
much to put on this plan and so much in depth here that there was a question as to how much he could put on here. I would suggest to you that the property it's abutting, basically, as you can see, Boston Turnpike. And the abutters on both sides, one in one side a street, the other side another industrial space, commercial industrial space. So as opposed to a piece of real estate that's in a neighborhood where you might want to know who the particular neighbors are. These are all like uses, they're all like buildings, and I think that's the reason for that particular request for the names and addresses relief. Same with the property lines and locations of buildings. The buildings are fairly close there, although you have the Jiffy Lube building that's now empty next to it, and that puts a space there. But again, being industrial based and how much you want to stretch out the plan and squeeze the things into the middle of the plan may be an issue when you're trying to put together a plan like this. I think that's it. So I'd ask you to grant those waivers. I frankly thought that they had been reviewed by planning and that they were all set, but I guess we have to ask you for them.
We still have to include them.
None of them bother me. I don't know about anybody
No.
else.
No, I think we also should add N, because they've requested that
Yep,
too. I don't
yeah, I got that.
so.
Okay. All right.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Move to close the public hearing?
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Can I get a motion?
All right. I move to approve a special permit under Section 4B to maintain the existing non-conforming number of parking spaces and to grant waivers under subsections D, E, F, G, K, and N for 504 to 512 Boston Turnpike in the Commercial Business District.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I forgot K, which was the sign, but that's a separate permit
We
anyway.
got that one. Yeah.
He said,
Yep.
Thank you.
thank you.
Nice to see you all.
All right, nice to see you. All right. Our next hearing. All right, this is to hear the appeal of Michael Connors of 779 Hartford Turnpike, Shrewsbury, Mass. For a variance to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 2, definitions for building materials sales room to exceed 25% of the floor area devoted to display and sales upon property located at 779 Hartford Turnpike in the limited industrial zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 43, Plot 025000. Please state your name for the record.
Michael Connors with Emily's Interiors.
Joseph Cups's, owner of Ramona Works and property owner at 779 Hartford Turnpike.
So we're here today. We've been before the board the last two meetings. We previously sought some relief for the setbacks to perform an addition at the building. But as part of that process, it was uncovered that the business, the zone, does not support what we are currently using it for and what it's been used for the last 21 years. So it's a showroom, a building material sales room. We sell cabinetry, flooring, we have displays, vignettes, hardware, things like that. The previous owners, New Face Kitchens, they purchased the building in 2003, and it was their showroom. We purchased it from them in 2020. We basically did a full interior renovation. We applied for a building permit. It was received on February 6th of 2020. We went through all of the, applicable inspections through that whole process. It was never kind of raised that it was an issue for it to be a showroom or a building material sales room until we went through the process. So this is just to seek, basically a continuation of the existing use so that we may continue to use it as it currently is purposed and as it has been for the last 21 years.
Louise, anything else?
No, I don't think so. That about covers it. I think we talked about it a little bit at our last meeting, that this was something we discovered throughout, this CBA and, planning board process.
Peter?
So I don't think I have any issues with this. Obviously, it's been used that way for a couple decades without incident. I don't think it's going to open the floodgates to others trying to open large showrooms in the limited industrial district. I just don't see a problem with it.
Thank you. Ann?
So I had a question. If the standard is 25% of the floor area, what is the percentage of the floor area that you're seeking?
So currently, it's 100% as it currently exists. With the proposed addition that we've been through zoning for, it'll be roughly 70%.
Okay.
So we're actually reducing the percentage. We're increasing the square footage, but reducing the percentage with the new use.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't have any issues.
Remind us all again, the showroom area in this particular business, it's kind of like difficult to keep in a little box, right? It's like you can't.
Correct. The
really-
showroom is the main business. It's,
Yeah.
kitchen and building sales showroom.
Yep.
So that's the main purpose. Like I said, right now, the building's about 2,000 square feet, and it's 100% showroom. There's a small garage in the back that we use as storage, but it's probably 5% of the building, if I had to guess.
Yep.
So right now, conservatively, it's 95% showroom, and we're looking to, part of the genesis of this is currently we're renting warehouse space in Northborough. So part of the purposes of this addition is we're increasing the showroom space, but we're also bringing that, ability to, receive and store building materials, cabinetry, things like that in the warehouse space, consolidate all of our operations to this one spot. So that's kind of the genesis and reason for the change.
Yep. Yeah, that all makes perfect sense. It's not like you have like a auto parts store where like the front half is
Correct, yes.
retail and then the rest of it is just an enormous parts warehouse.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the showroom is kind of the key to the whole business.
Yep. No, that makes sense to me.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Public hearing, is there anyone that wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. No waivers? Okay.
I move to approve a variance under Section 2, definitions for building materials sales room to exceed 25% of the floor area devoted to display and sales at 779 Hartford Turnpike Limited Industrial District.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You can start.
Sure.
All right, before we begin, please have a seat.
Thank you.
Before I announce you, I would like to just get the Mullen situation over with. So Kevin was not at our last meeting, but he did listen to the video provided, and we just need Essick, and Kevin to sign the Mullen. So if you could step forward and do that for me.
Hi, I'm from Paul Haverty's office, filling in for Paul.
How are ya?
Yourself.
Oh,
How you doing?
hi, how are you?
Good.
Good, Essick, that's you.
I'm just signing to say that I'm
That you understand what Mullins is and that he has performed his duties.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. That's all the hearings that we just did. All right. Thank you. All right. So this next hearing, this is a continuation from our January 29th, 2024 hearing. This is here to the appeal of 33 through 69 Green Street. This is a 40B Development by Pulte Homes of New England LLC, located at 1900 West Park Drive, Suite 180 in Westboro. This is a comprehensive permit to permit the construction of a 300-unit multifamily residential development. And good evening.
Good evening. Essex Petrie with Pulte Homes.
And Bob Michaud with MDM Transportation Consultants.
Welcome.
So we had I'm not sure if there was a preferred order here. I know that we had a presentation, but I know there's been a traffic peer review, so I'm not sure if the preference is to review the peer review or for us to kind of go through some of our, the traffic impact statement that was submitted as part of the application.
My preference would be to hear you first and then your peer review. I don't know what my colleagues
Agreed.
think. Are you good
Agreed.
with that? All right.
Great, that worked for us. All right, we're working. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Again, Essex Petrie with Pulte Homes. We've been in front of you a few times, but just to keep everyone up to speed or to fill in others who haven't been able to join, I'll just do a little bit of a recap before we turn it over to Bob to go into the details of our traffic summary. And again, Bob is here representing MDM Transportation, who is handling our transportation impact analysis. And we also have Stephanie Kiefer here with us from Smolak and Vaughn from our legal services perspective. Just to recap quickly, we submitted on the 21st. We had our initial project overview hearing on December 18th. We were last here in January presenting on stormwater and site design. And then, as I said, again, we're here tonight to discuss in detail traffic impacts. Site is located in the southwestern corner of town, adjacent to kind of the Grafton and Westboro boundaries, kind of sandwiched between Green Street and South Street, and it's just off of Route 20. Just again, really quickly, some of the details of the project. As you mentioned, it's a 40B. It's approximately a total of 36 acres included in the project. We are including 6 four-story buildings, each with 50 units, and each with a garage under, as well as some associated surface parking. As a 40B, we are providing 25% affordable, as that would be 75 units. Importantly, that I wanted to mention too, as through our coordination with the town, throughout this entire process, we've made some adjustments to our site plan, and one of them in particular that's important for tonight is the parcel that you see crossing between South Street and Green Street. This is a parcel that we will be donating to the town of Shrewsbury for the town of Shrewsbury then to conduct a planning, permitting, design, and construction project outside of this project.
Excuse me for 1 second.
Sure.
I think the audience is asking for that to be turned.
Oh, sorry.
Good. There we go. Continue.
And so obviously that's a pertinent piece of information for tonight's meeting regarding the traffic impact. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob to go through the details.
Okay, thank you, board members. For the record, Robert Michaud, principal with MDM Transportation Consultants. I'm very glad to be here tonight. We've undertaken a comprehensive traffic impact and access study to both a local and state level standard. And where we started with that were preliminary discussions with the town to understand what we should really be looking at and focusing on in 2 regards. One, relative to the impact of the project itself and what impact the additional traffic would have on what we would call the gateway locations in and around the site, the driveways, and particularly the signal at Route 20 at Green and South Streets. So you'll see in this aerial diagram that we have identified several red dots. Those are our primary study locations to answer that question. But we also show blue dots on this that represent what we call secondary study locations that were specifically identified to be able to quantify the potential benefits associated with a cross-connecting roadway between South and Green Streets, right? We'll call that the town project. This development affords the opportunity at some future date for the town to pursue that cross-connection to allow for access to the signal at Route 20. Right? So folks who today rely on South Street, whether it's for the school that's nearby that intersection or even residents that are headed west to Worcester, we find that that cross-connection roadway actually provides that benefit to be able to actually use a signal instead of the more difficult scenario of making a left turn on Route 20 unsignalized. Now, the next slide provides some context on how we've approached this study. This is at a very large scale. This is a Route 20 quarter master plan. The town of Shrewsbury, working in coordination with Mass DOT, have undertaken a very comprehensive study of this entire quarter, all the way from Edgemere to the Northborough town line, to understand and to program what improvements would be necessary to accommodate growth along this entire quarter. You'll see that there's a yellow box section to the very easterly end of this quarter study, this master plan. That's the area that's actually specifically under design currently, and that is funded for construction beginning in spring of 2026. So the good news for regional growth and for the town is that there are now actual plans and will be actual improvements to accommodate growth, including the primary gateway intersection that I mentioned earlier, which is at Route 20 and Green Street. This is a closer in view of at least conceptually what those improvements are going to look like. They're rather extensive. They actually involve widening out Route 20 so that it presents a 4-lane cross-section with multi-use path opportunities that allow for bicycle, walking activities, et cetera, and independent or specific turn lanes at major intersections. And I'll note at this particular gateway intersection of Green South and Route 20 that there'll be a conversion of what is today a westbound single left turn lane to an additional turn lane, an additional through lane, and additional lanes as well on the Green Street approach. So there's a substantial capacity and safety benefit associated with these improvements that are now under design to be constructed. And that's the background or the lens in which we're doing our study. The next slide provides an understanding of how much additional traffic this project might generate. And through additional slides, I'll present the effect of that. The project at 300 units can be estimated to generate somewhere around 70 to 80 peak direction trips during peak hours. These are based on industry standards that are well established in the traffic consulting industry. They're based on many, many studies throughout the country on these types of projects. They do not represent any adjustment for transit modes or other types of working arrangements that increasingly people have these days, where they might work from home, they might telecommute, they may work compressed weeks. These are current statistics that were applied that we use as a basis of understanding impact. So in sum, we're talking about a total of just over 100 vehicle trips, two-way trips, being generated during what we would call traditional peak hours when people are commuting. The next slide presents a very high-level graphic that indicates how many additional vehicle trips that would be generated on the localized traffic volume network. So that stick figure diagram represents the roadways east to west or left to right would be the Route 20 corridor. You'll see a colored dot there. That's the traffic signal at Green and South Streets. Just to the east of that is the South Street unsignalized intersection. And then working to page bottom where it says site, you'll see that the two driveways, a northern site driveway and a southern site driveway, are represented. And this diagram, which is for the weekday morning peak hour, indicates
for the 100 or so two-way traffic volume estimates, what percentage of that volume would be going west versus east on Route 20 or north on South Street, eventually to Route 9, and then conversely to the south or page bottom, how many vehicle trips per hour might be generated to the south, going to perhaps the MBTA station or Route 30. And you'll see over the course of an hour, the numbers are not, they're not extraordinary, frankly. If we look at the Route 20 corridor and we look to the east, which is where most of the traffic is going to be generated to and from, you can see the volumes are in the order of about 50 total two-way trips over the course of an entire hour. That's about one vehicle per minute. North on South Street, it's less than that. It's about 39 or 40 trips or so, about one vehicle every 2 minutes. West is even less, 17, and to the south it's less than 10 per hour. Right? Likewise, in the next diagram, very similar trends, but in the opposite direction, if you will. In the evening commuter peak hours, you've got a higher percentage of folks who are returning to the development, although the overall two-way flow numbers are similar to the morning. The directional flow is actually more inbound than it is outbound, but there's still very modest volumes. These in totality represent a very small percentage of the amount of traffic that currently travels through the major intersection at Route 20, Green Street and South Street. I believe it's less than a 1 or 2% change. It's fairly nominal. What we've done, in addition to adding this traffic to what we've counted and what exists today, is we've projected out growth patterns consistent with what the Route 20 quarter study did, to include no less than 8 additional area developments, as well as what we call a normal or average annual growth factor. We do that over a 7-year horizon, consistent with state level and local requirements. And we've then developed a future year picture of what traffic volumes might look like, not only to include these volumes, but those other projects and normal background growth. It's the same process that the Route 20 quarter study applied. Looking at that, we can now analyze how much delay, what kind of actual impact this project would have 7 years from now with that additional growth. And the next slide presents a very high-level graphic with letters that reflect the average amount of delay that can be sustained, or will be sustained, at the signalized intersection at Route 20. And that's given in a letter form designation because it's similar to a report card, if you will. In the traffic engineering industry, and you probably know this, there are letter grades associated with different levels of delay. What we try to achieve, and what our standards and goals are, is to achieve a level of service D or better, in which case the delays are manageable and are considered acceptable by both local and state standards. And what I'm pleased to report is that that principally impacted signal operates at level of service C or better under all analysis scenarios and conditions. What I've not shown in the presentation is a safety assessment that we've also undertaken for that principally impacted location. It's the same type of analysis that the Route 20 quarter study undertook. That location does experience crashes, just like every intersection in the Commonwealth does, but it experiences them at a rate that's half of the average crash rate for similar locations in this particular area, and particularly along Route 20. So we're not seeing that there's any particular safety issue, but I will point out that the Route 20 improvements, which are currently under design to be implemented beginning 2 years from now, will significantly address some of the safety issues that are documented. There will be improved signal timing, improved capacity, better accommodation for pedestrians and bicyclists, etc. So that's at our front door, vast improvements, modest impact from our perspective, and based on the analysis. The other locations beyond there include, of course, the driveways, and we've analyzed those very carefully. Green Street is a low-volume roadway. It carries less than 1,000 cars per day. In fact, it's less than 600 cars per day. And we will be adding traffic to it, certainly, but it will remain a low-volume roadway once this project, and if it is approved. And the analysis of those driveways would indicate that those driveways will also function well below capacity with very nominal delays. The next slide presents some safety-based criteria that we also looked at in the design of the driveways. These are speed measurements that we undertook in the vicinity of where the proposed driveways are being proposed. This was information that was collected using state-of-the-art equipment, radar-based recorders over an extended period of time to understand not only on an average basis what people are traveling at speed-wise, but on an 85th percentile basis, which is a standard that is applied for determining appropriate speed limits for roadways. And that is commonly used for design, specifically for sight lines. We see that those 85th percentile speeds range from about 33 to 37 miles per hour. That's relative to the prima facie speed limit of 30 miles an hour. They're slightly above that. It's not an uncommon scenario to have speeds that slightly exceed what those poster or regulatory limits are. That said, when we apply those measured speeds, which are slightly above posted limits or prima facie limits, and look at the sightline requirements, we exceed all of the applicable standards and criteria that relate to how much distance needs to be, or visibility, if you will, needs to be provided from an oncoming vehicle approaching the driveway and vice versa for somebody leaving the driveway to see an oncoming vehicle and to be able to make an appropriate move, left or a right turn. And without going through all of the machinations of the numbers, we can say we meet the standards or far exceed them in some cases. We also look at circulation aspects of the development, and we've conducted what's known as an auto turn analysis. So we look at the largest potential responding vehicle that might need to get to this development and circulate within it, and we do a computer model, in this case of the Shrewsbury Ladder 1 vehicle. It's a tower vehicle with a ladder on it, and that modeling indicates that all of the circulation aisles, the widths, the orientation of space between buildings are all adequate enough to accommodate the swept path of that type of responding vehicle. And these exhibits, which were included in the submitted materials, demonstrate that. I would point out that there was a supplemental memo that was provided to the town at the request of the fire department to specifically model the so-called T section between buildings 2 and 3, which is on this diagram, the upper right corner of the plan. And you'll see that there's a hammerhead design that would allow a responding vehicle to go behind each of those buildings and then to return eventually to Green Street. And we've done that modeling as well, and it works quite well. So from a circulation perspective, all of this works neatly and in conformance with what the fire department will need for response. Finally, I'll point out that this isn't all about traffic. This is also about accommodating multimodal type travel to or from or within the property. It's very common for projects like these to introduce things like vehicle charging stations that encourage and support the use of electrified vehicles. In this particular case, there'll be about 20% of the parking supply will be EV equipped, which is significant and also consistent with current stretch code requirements for these types of projects. There'll be bicycle facilities and parking within the property itself. I'll point back to the multi-use path connections that will eventually exist along the Route 20 corridor that will provide an important amenity for alternative travel modes to get to and from a project like this. And so we're building these types of multimodal accommodations within the property, understanding that at some point they'll be probably even better used because the infrastructure will actually exist. Other on-site amenities, I believe, there'll be, of course, mail, package delivery, and things of that nature, all common to the developments like this. Extensive pedestrian infrastructure that connect all buildings, to various elements of the site, and eventually to the cross connection that I mentioned earlier between Green and South Streets, and then eventually to the Route 20 corridor, to the multi-use path. So in some, those are some of the elements that are being contemplated and planned now that are consistent with other similar developments in the Commonwealth. In summary, we know that there's peer review of this. We're in receipt of that. We're very pleased with the outcome of the peer review, actually. There were no aspects of peer review in your reviewers here tonight that would change any of the findings or results of what's been presented. We've taken, in fact, a very conservative approach in how we've estimated future year traffic conditions. We've gone above and beyond, if you will, what we see as normal growth patterns in this area. We've actually overestimated that to some degree. And while there may be some housekeeping items in peer review, none of those have to do with materially changing any aspect of the design or the analysis that we've prepared to date. So with that, I'll hand it back to Essex to wrap up.
Yeah, I did just one quick wrap-up slide before we turn it over to the peer review. Just to kind of talk briefly about our overall, process with the ZBA and that kind of next from that perspective. We currently have one meeting on the books where that's scheduled, and that's the end of March, where we'll talk about the water and sewer improvements. But with that, that's what we have as far as a presentation, so I'll turn it over to town
Before we move on
reviewer.
to peer review, we have a question from the board.
Yeah, just a couple questions. Thank you for the presentation. Just quickly, I noticed in the data that you presented, it didn't look like the diagrams and the numbers showed the proposed street, the land that would be donated.
Oh.
I was wondering if you could explain for folks what the impact of that would be,
Glad you
if
asked.
any.
We anticipated that question, and it's a great question. It's one of the first
Well,
questions
thank you.
I asked when I got involved with the project. So also in the submitted material is supplemental analysis. There's a whole chapter
Yep, I see
that addresses this,
Mhm.
that estimates what volumes might be shifted from various roadways to the cross connection, and what impact that might have to, say, the signal, even before the Route 20 corridor improvements are completed. And I mentioned earlier that we collected data at a series of secondary locations. We went as far east as Walnut Street, which is better part of a mile away, as well as Appaloosa Drive, which is just east of us, so we're south of us. And we looked at existing patterns for, say, the school, the Alhambra School, and looked at how it generates traffic and where it's generated to or from. And in short, what we see is that there's a potential or a likelihood of attracting about 50 to 60 vehicles away from the Walnut Street corridor as a more direct connection to Route 20 if this connector were provided. In other words, folks who are traveling on Walnut Street today who may be inclined to want to go to Worcester West, who go all the way up to the end of Walnut Street and make a left turn there, would be more inclined to use South Street to the connector to the South Street signal. It's simply quicker and more efficient. The Alhambra School, we know, generates somewhere around a dozen left turn vehicles onto Route 20 to get to that same westerly direction. A left turn there is not actually technically allowed or legal, but it happens, and it's not a good thing. So those dozen or so vehicles are absorbed within that cross connector. So in sum, about 70 to maybe 100 vehicles per hour would be using that connection and eventually using the signal. The analysis of that scenario would indicate that Green Street approach, which is, again, a low-volume approach and will continue to be, even with our development, will continue to operate well below capacity with modest delays, level of service C or better, even with the cross-connection roadway. The real benefit to that cross-connection, of course, is eliminating the illegal left turn movement from South Street in particular. That's its primary benefit. And allowing a more efficient way for folks, say on Appaloosa Drive, to get west on Route 20. So that's been accounted for and is submitted as part of the materials that the board has and that we're subject to peer review.
So it might draw additional trips, but overall it would probably increase safety because there'd be fewer illegal turns.
Absolutely. Yes.
My other question had to do with the crash data. I see the intersection crash rate worksheets in here.
Yep.
Those reflect the current situation, not the proposed development, right?
Correct.
So I just wanted to make sure I understand. There's a crash rate calculation here, and it seems to be based on the annual approach volume over the average number of crashes a year. Can you explain sort of exactly, and the calculation, for example, for the first one is 0.55. That's 0.55 what?
Yeah, it's 0.55 crashes per million entering vehicles.
Per million entering vehicles, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a way of standardizing, in other words, so you can compare apples to apples between
Yeah,
them.
it normalizes the data so that you can compare it to crash rates throughout the Commonwealth.
Right.
Or whether it's signalized or unsignalized, there are
Right.
different average crash rates for either of those two types of intersections.
Okay.
It allows us to gauge whether or not we're average or below or above.
Right.
I'll also point out beyond the crash rate itself, that there's a listing of high crash locations in the Commonwealth that would be subject to what they call HSIP funding or grant funds to make safety-based improvements. None of the study locations that we've evaluated fall in that category.
Right.
They're simply not high crash locations. Crashes occur, don't get me wrong. It's, I've lived in Shrewsbury, I grew up here. Yeah, I've seen my fair share of crashes, and crashes do occur. But they don't occur to a point that is abnormal, given the high amount of traffic that uses Route 20.
And you were saying for the Route 20 Green Street, South Street intersection, so it's 0.55, the District 3 average, so to compare to the average is 0.89, so that's roughly half.
Roughly half.
So it's significantly safer than a comparable average roadway. And then for Route 20 and South Street, it's 0.17 as compared to 0.8, or as compared to 0.61. So it's sort of 5 times safer,
Yeah.
if you can do it that way. So in other words, to begin with, these intersections aren't particularly dangerous as compared to other intersections, and it sounds like the improvements that they're going to make to the corridor will perhaps make them safer.
That is exactly correct. And, we do have a more elaborate discussion of this in the report, of course, that indicates the types of crashes, whether they're angled rear end, whether they involve personal injury or not. The vast majority of crashes are property damage only. The example of Route 20 at South Street is, of the 8 crashes that were recorded over a 5-year period of time, all 8 of them involve property damage only.
Fender bender kind of
Fender
stuff?
bender kind of stuff, and the vast majority as well at the signal. So there aren't trends that would suggest an immediate need to improve safety, but obviously those will be addressed as part of the Route 20 corridor improvement.
I appreciate that. I also grew up here. I just assumed because of the approach from South Street being what it is, that the crash statistics would be much worse than they are. So it's actually kind of nice to see that it's significantly safer than you'd expect.
Right.
That's all for me.
Okay. Anything before we move on?
I just had one point of clarity talking about the traffic from Walnut Street, assuming the improvement or the added connector between South Street and Green Street.
Right.
That's assuming, or the numbers that you've used are assuming that the Route 20 improvements don't happen and it's based off current conditions. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, actually, yes, it in a roundabout, it does. It does represent that more conservative assumption. I will point out that the original design for the Route 20 corridor improvements, at least conceptually at Walnut Street, envisioned that you would need to use a roundabout to reverse direction to go west. Where today you can make a left turn. It's not comfortable to do that, but the original contemplated design would have had people making a right turn only to then proceed eastbound to go around a roundabout to reverse direction, not the most efficient way. That design has changed to include a signal at Walnut Street. So our estimates might be a little bit conservative in that if you signalize Walnut Street, it's a little more efficient than what we originally assumed in our assessment.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think the 70 to 100 vehicles is a conservative estimate.
Okay, that's what I was thinking as well, that if you did improve it, that number may drop from what you've estimated as
Exactly.
well. Okay, thank you.
I just have one question, clarity. The proposed cut-through.
Yep.
At what point do you expect that to go in?
It rests with the town. This project affords the opportunity to make that connection, but it's not a proponent of the connection. Pulte has worked very closely with the town to identify what it would see as an appropriate improvement in that area. The contribution, if you will, by Pulte would be to dedicate that land so that the town could then advance that to the next stage of implementation. It goes hand in hand with the Route 20 corridor improvements. Honestly, it's a very good complement to what's being planned and built on Route 20. I can't speak to the timing of it, but the largest or the heaviest lift, if you will, is getting the land and having that opportunity. The next steps are then in the hands of the town.
Just one last, very quickly. What's the relationship in time between when this development would be built and the updates to the Route 20 corridor? I think you said 2026, but I just want to make sure I understand if there's a lag.
I'll let Essex speak to the timing of the project, but the timing of the MassDOT improvements would begin, as it's currently scheduled, in spring of 2026. I anticipate that would be a 2 construction season project.
Okay.
And so it would most likely be substantially complete in 2028 and thereabouts, and how that syncs up with.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap there, and there certainly would be a period of that. There would be construction going on both, but the timing of that as far as ending in 2028 seems to line up with where we would like to be wrapped up by as well.
Okay. So in other words, by the time there'd be lots more residents on these roads, the roads would be improved?
Based on the timing that Bob's mentioning for the Route 20 widening project and what we're looking for, yeah, it seems to line up pretty well.
Great. Okay, that's all.
Okay, move on to the peer review.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me? My name's Maureen LePayton with Bowman, and we had completed the peer review specific to the traffic items. Overall, it was a professionally prepared report in accordance with industry standards. We had gone and done a site visit and confirmed the information provided in the TIS for site distance, vehicle speeds, and existing conditions. We did have a few items just requesting clarification from the applicant, which I will go over now. Quickly. One was clarification on parking, slight discrepancy between what was indicated on the plans and in the TIAS for total amount of parking. Additionally, we had requested to verify the EV-specific parking spaces on the plans. Our second comment was requesting the additional count data. Did not seem to be included in the appendix for the secondary study area locations, just so we could review those and verify the capacity analyses included in the TIAS for those locations. Third was requesting crash rates be updated. So the crash rates were calculated based on the latest 5 years of data available from MassDOT, which is 2018 through 2022. All the data beyond 2020 right now is technically considered not finalized, so those crashes could be subject to some changes. So we'd request that they just verify the crash rates based on the latest finalized data, which would be 2016 through 2020, to verify there'd be no significant changes in the crash rates, again, based on how low they are compared to the statewide and district averages. Wouldn't expect a drastic change, but just want a verification from that from the applicant. Additionally, if we could request crash data and crash rates for the secondary study area locations, which were not included in the TIAS to review. Fourth, we looked at the background traffic. We generally agree with the growth rates used and the other site development projects that were included in the TIS. We do ask the applicant clarify some of the trip generation included from some of the other site developments, some of which include the Point at Hills Farm, the Charles River Labs development, UMass office development, and the Village at Grafton Woods development. We also reached out to the town of Grafton, and there are 3 projects that weren't included in the TIAS that we asked the applicant review and just confirm if there are any impacts to the conclusions presented in the TIAS based on potential trips from those 3 projects. We are generally in agreement with the project trip distribution. They use Journey to Work data in order to distribute trips throughout the network. We concur with this methodology. We do request backup information just for the years and sources used for the journey to work data. For the capacity analyses, we did note a couple of small discrepancies in the level of service tables within the TIAS and the single reports provided. We asked that the applicant just review and clarify the reported level of service in the report. And again, with the count data requested, we would also be able to finish verifying the analyses for the secondary study area intersections. For site circulation, we did review the fire truck turn templates provided. We do request some additional clarification to confirm at the northern site driveway that there would be no conflicts with proposed trees or other landscaping for exiting movements. And then also request additional turn templates be provided at the southern site driveway and the gated emergency site driveway, which were not included. And as far as other site pavement marking signage, would also ask the applicant consider marking pedestrian crossings within the site at all ramp locations for increased visibility. We also agree with the transportation demand management plan and would ask the applicant to commit to implementing those plans and agree with the provisions of the other pedestrian and bicycle accommodations that have been provided.
Okay, thank you. Any comments before we open up to public? No? Peter? All right. Next step is to open this up to some public discussion. I do see people in the back of the room. I assume that you're all here to make comments. I would just ask that you remind yourselves that there's other people here that want to spend some time discussing what they have on their mind. So if you could step to the microphone and state your name for the record for us. Is there anyone that would like to begin? Welcome.
Good afternoon, good night, everyone. My name is Raul Santiago. I'm a resident of 3 Appaloosa Drive, and I have a few questions. If you are so kind to answer to me. I think that Peter asked some of the questions I had, so thank you for that. You mentioned that during the morning you'll have about 117 cars driving through either Green Street or South Street, and then 111 during the evening. It could be the other way around. Are those numbers inclusive of existing traffic, or that is just what you're anticipating with the new traffic?
Through the chair, the volumes that you mentioned, 111 to 117, are the additional trips on an hourly basis that this project would add to existing volumes.
Yeah, and what is the existing volume? Do you know?
We collected data in April of 2023, and the traffic report actually has volume networks that indicate what those volumes are. If we want, we can. I'll put it in this context. Route 20 currently accommodates about more than 2,200 trips an hour. And to that number, we're adding about 50 or so to the east and about 17 to 20 to the west, right? So we're talking about very, very small changes, somewhere in the order of about 1% of the volumes that currently travel on Route 20. So that's the context of it.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. And you mentioned that the waiting level at the light is at the level C after your analysis. What is the current level? Do you know? Do you calculate that? And what does that mean in plain English? How long will I have to wait now at the light?
Yes.
Good question.
It's a very good question. And through the chair, today in the morning, if you were approaching Route 20 from Green Street, you would have, on average, about 20 to 22 seconds of delay. You'd have to wait about that amount of time before you got a green light. That same approach 7 years from now with growth and other traffic along Route 20 would go to about 23 seconds And with the additional traffic that we're talking about for our project, it would go to 25 seconds. So there's about a 3-second increase in overall delay. It's not a change that an average driver would perceive as being different than how you experience that delay today. So that's an easier way to think about it.
Okay. And one last question, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to make this question. It's also about traffic, and I'm concerned about the traffic, the actual traffic generated on the while the construction is going on, and I wonder if that was considered. What is the traffic plan and patterns for when we are in when you are in construction, and does that include heavy traffic on our street, Appaloosa Drive? So that's something that I would like to, if it cannot be answered today, then at the future meeting.
Right, and through the chair, there'll be a plan developed that's called a construction management plan.
Right.
That construction management plan will very specifically identify routes that trucks, heavy commercial vehicles cannot use, and those that they can use. It will also identify other measures like on-site construction work or parking, dust suppression, noise attenuation, things of that nature. In other words, the plan will endeavor to minimize the amount of impact that the project has from both a traffic perspective and an environmental impact perspective, and from the neighbor's perspective. So we haven't developed that plan yet. That's something that's done typically when a site contractor is selected, and there are submittals of that plan to the town that would be made and signed off on by the town at that time.
And will there be a public hearing on that?
Typically not. That's something that, through the chair, is done through departmental review to ensure that, say, the traffic engineer, the public works department, police, fire, all sign off as individual department entities.
I would just say you can always state your position in writing and get it to the building department so that you're on record with your concerns.
All right, thank you very much.
Welcome. Okay, anyone else that wishes to be heard, sir?
My name is Abhinash Srivatsa. I reside on the Green Street end of Appaloosa. I had a couple of questions, and just kind of my personal experience. What I heard as a layperson was a lot of jargon, which I'm pretty sure is well researched and so on. But I want to tell you. Let me get to the question first. The question is, all this is good, but if it doesn't pan out as it has been proposed, and there's a huge delay, a lot of backup, and a lot of inconvenience to the residents, who's going to survey this post-construction? Who's going to be responsible to remedy it? Will the town? Will it be Pulte? Will it be? We can't just complain and put up with it. It has to be remedied if it doesn't work out this way.
Good question. I mean, if it became a matter of public safety, then we would have police, fire involved in that. I hear where you're going with this, and it makes sense. I just don't have a standard answer. Peter's gonna take a whack at it here.
Take a whack at it. I think the answer is, if the projections don't end up working in 10 years from now, the intersections are a nightmare, it would be probably the town's problem. That said, I think one of the great parts of this process is the peer review piece, that traffic studies are not an exact science. I'm sure you'd agree with that, but there are many, many validated studies and techniques that are developed over decades that get you to a pretty good place, and then we have another highly qualified professional review their conclusions and tell us if they think they're way out of whack. So we sort of do everything on the front end that we can to try to ensure that things pan out as we think they will, and they never will pan out exactly how we think they will. But I think in the event that it became a huge problem, it would be a mixture of the town and the state that would have to sort it out because of Route 20. Is that accurate mostly?
Yeah, state would have to be involved for sure.
Right.
Thank you. And now for my personal experience, I mean, we heard the experts, but as a layperson that uses that road every day and have 2 daughters, one of them is actually taking the driver's license tomorrow. She has to drive that way to her school in Worcester. But the issue is this: Green Street is narrow as we go from Appaloosa towards Route 20. It's got a slope. In the cold months, there's a constant water run on the street that ices up. And the edges of the road are, not clearly marked. There's potholes. Sometimes there's a cone that kind of warns you that, you go too far there, you're in trouble. And the last few winters have been okay, but when there's a lot of snow, there's a creep up of hard ice that narrows the road further. So much so that, there have been some winters that we've had to go through South Street, even though it's been inconvenient. And now we have to go all the way to Walnut Street if we want to do the turn. I fear for my daughters when they use these roads as novice drivers. And the other concern is that, there's going to be a backup no matter what if people start spilling in from South Street into that at the signal that yes, it's a small percentage of increase to the Route 20 traffic, but what percentage increase will it be to Green Street, people that use it all the time? And lastly, one other point, the school buses stopping at the apartment at the junction of Route 9 and South Street, it's a nightmare because it backs up traffic that wants to turn from Route 9. If that happens here, which I hope it won't, when they park outside the street and 50 children get in and get out, that's also something you need to account for. Thank you for taking my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Sir?
Thank you. Ming Shan, I live at 12 Appaloosa Drive. Thank you all and for working hard on this. And also, I really appreciate the expert opinions. With that said, I have a few questions. First, in terms of all this research, we have pulled the big, multi-million corporations. They can sponsor this. So now, for us, the average residents, we don't have the resource. So in terms of doing a separate study to prove what they said. So because the question to town, to the board members, how that need to be balanced. So a comment here in terms of the simulation. I do a lot of simulation myself. If I have the time, probably I can go to the street to watch the traffic count and do a different statistics here. The reason why is I have doubt about some of the numbers. 300 units, adults, each house has 2. We are talking about 600 adults minimally. So when we back from the pandemics, everything goes back to normal. In the traffic, in the peak hours, 5 o'clock, people come home, take the kids, or they pick up the kids from school for an hour. How many traffic that should be in an hour? So if that is, say, one household have coming back within an hour, that we're talking about 300 vehicles for 60 minutes. That's about 5 vehicles per minute out there already. So all in all, I have really sincere doubts about some of the simulations. Okay. So now imagine right now, nobody goes to Green Street to Route 20, simply because, as my neighbors said, it's dangerous, and also it's so narrow, and But that's really have no option. People do that now. In the morning, you can see the traffic back and forth from the schools. The question, what happens if, as I just argued, if really you got a huge backup on the Green Street to Route 20, because hypothetically based on the number I was saying here, what are those vehicles going to do? Are they coming back on the Shrewsbury Street? So we're going to have people just back and forth here because they have no way out. So, that's part of the question I have. But thank you again. I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you for your comments. Sir?
Sorry.
Could we give everybody else a chance? Thank you, I appreciate that. Sir?
It's amazing.
It's a test.
Hi, everyone.
You did good.
Abdullah, I live on Green Street. I've sent the staff a slide, a couple of slides.
Yes.
Is it possible to view it here? To these.
We do not have the capability of doing that. Was this the crash data?
No, I've sent this to like a couple of PDF pages.
That's up to you. I mean,
Can we share it?
if you want to.
It's just going to make my points more efficient to present. If-
I don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Okay, is it possible to view it here on the screen? So just all
Do
my
you have
notes
it?
is-
I have it, so,
Okay.
yeah, if you stop sharing,
Do I gotta, okay, sorry.
well, no, don't apologize. Let me just find it.
So this is information that you've submitted that we're going to now pull up so that when you're asking your question or explaining your comments, we have something to,
Yeah, thank you. And
review.
first of all, I would like to appreciate all the extensive study from both sides on the the traffic analysis as well as the peer review. So yeah, and just in. I mean, yes, the report shows outlines some numbers and maybe it indicates some. So, we cannot see it here on the screen yet. is it?
I'm pulling
Oh,
it up.
sorry, yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
Please take your time. All right, so just on the first bullet point, I mean, the report, of course, like with the numbers and as my neighbors here in the comments were mentioned, I appreciate the rigor that has been done in the study. But in the second bullet, I'm just quoting Shrewsbury Police Department about the existing status of Route 20. I mean, I just want to point out that one of the main reasons of the Route 20 corridor plan is just to improve the existing conditions. It's not just to accommodate, projected growth. It's because Route 20 currently is in the current state a mess in terms of its safety. So according to Shrewsbury Police Department, just last year, where there are like 175 crash reports. That's almost, if you look at it, I mean, we can put numbers in a different way, in a different units, but you can think of it, that's always about almost a crash every other day. You go on Monday, there's a crash. Tuesday, no crash. Wednesday, there's a crash. So I just would like to understand, like, in terms of, so when we say that the current development is going to be there and there is inconsequential or maybe non-trivial change to the traffic volume. So is it more about the volume or is it more, more about the safety? Yes, sure, you can put 1,000 cars. Maybe the volume will not, will not get affected. The delay will not get affected. But how about the safety? I just would like to raise that to, in addition to the comments that were made about how many cars were being put on the road, volume might not be affected, but I think safety here is also a crucial, important
I'd
factor.
just ask a clarifying question.
Yes.
That 175 crashes annually, is that for this
Yes.
station? Or
Yes.
is it for the entire stretch?
Yes, I mean, it's according to the Shrewsbury Police Department. That's what the Shrewsbury Police Department got.
For Route 20 throughout Shrewsbury or for
Yes.
just the? Throughout
That's my understanding, right?
the entire length of Route 20 within Shrewsbury?
Yes.
I'm saying not just these intersections.
Yes, not these intersections.
Okay,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, I mean, they responded to these crashes along Route 20.
Okay.
Right? And so, yeah, that's thank you, Peter. I mean, that's the point. The crashes do not happen only on the intersection. I understand the part of the study focuses on the intersections, but every bit and feet of Route 20 is a mess. So this is one point. I just want to highlight that this is another way of looking at the safety of it. Now, number two, the intersection. They're about Route 20 to Green Street and South Street. So I'm not going to mention, if you just sit there for a while, you can get an estimate of the red light runners, the near miss. We can neglect this. This happens every time. But one important note to note here is that the traffic light of South Street to Route 20 and Green Street to Route 20, although they look that they operate at the same time, they operate independently in the sense that if there are some cars waiting at South Street, they could get a green light before the cars coming from Green Street to Route 20. And that causes a major confusion because what happens, people at Green Street, they stop because it's red. But then the cars coming from South Street, they assume, okay, it's their right of way. And they're trying to turn to Route 20 and they wait. Everybody waits. And then at that moment, the light at the Green Street to Route 20 opens up. And then the green light traffic goes up and it's a major confusion. So people don't know their right of way, and so I'm just adding a solution here because of also the additional volume is either sync them or provide protected signals. Okay. Now maybe if we go to number 3. So this is, I think, will concur to it will add to the comments that my neighbor made. Yes. So the traffic report, I think, I looked at the report. It's dated November 2023. Some of the tables are maybe from May and April. But I don't think the traffic report takes into consideration the status of Green Street. When we say Green Street is a low volume road, well, what definition, what makes a Green Street a low volume? Is it the width of the street? Is it the density of the housing or the residence? Is it the slope? I think these needs to be clarified. So this is just one example. In winter, and here I am quoting one acknowledged ticket on C-Click Fix by Town of Shrewsbury. That's been acknowledged, but it's not being fixed. There is a slab of ice, as my neighbor mentioned, comes around in wintertime, almost renders 1/3 of the road useless. And people drive into the middle of the road. Now imagine you're putting 1,000 cars into this road. So this is, so it's going to be a main issue. So, from this slide, my main point is that Green Street, when we say it's a low volume road and it's not going to there is no impact, maybe there is no impact on the delay, but then the safety and the concern of everyone, this is another major issue I think we need to consider. So if we go to slide 6, next slide. Yeah, so this is just a continuation of Green Street here. So when I look at the site plan and the entrance and the exit points, the development on the southern part of the part, there is the main exit. It's designed to be, let me just point it out. So it's designed to be here, right, at this part of the road. Now I understand all the rigor that has been done to take into consideration the site analysis and the speed. But just right, if you drive right in, there is a very narrow kink here that there are many cars that turn to drive into the middle of the road. And there are many instances that people just drive into each other and there's almost a near miss. So imagine putting 1,000 cars, according to the reports, this site will generate 1,000 cars. Imagine putting 1,000 cars every day on this narrow kink. So if you go to the next slide, what I'm trying to suggest, it looks like this plot of land, it still belongs to the project, but maybe it's not, it's being carved off independently. So here's a suggestion. Just because of what I mentioned about the status of Green Street, which is very, it's a low road volume, very narrow. just the best way, okay, while accommodating this plan, is just to push the entrance and the exit of this development as much as possible to the intersection. So avoiding this kink, you know, and my neighbors here will really, you know, benefit from just channeling all the 1,000 car traffic as much as possible to the intersection. And at the same time, I understand that from the previous meeting that there are some technical challenges with the emergency exit that is proposed to be put in the southern part. So maybe then move that emergency exit to be at the currently proposed main entrance of that development. Now, even better, if you go to the next slide, why not? I believe, you know, one of the nice things about this project is the main connector, because this is going to, you know, save. Yeah, as the study was mentioned, it's going to make lots of trips of our current neighbors, you know, efficient. So why not just put it on the main connector here? I understand there are these constraints on the wetlands and there are technical difficulties, but I mean, if there is a road that's going to be there, why not just push the traffic even further, calm it down by making it on the main connector? Now, if we go to the third slide, next slide. The last one, yes. So, you know, this, again, it's the cross connector. And again, I like the idea of the cross connector. I think it's going to absorb lots of traffic. It's going to avoid all the necessary cycles that people make from, you know, from South Street to go to Appaloosa and then again to Green Street. So this is a great idea. But then the location of this opening, the proposed location, is just going to increase additional conflict points. There is no incentive. So there is a bulk of traffic that goes from Al-Hamra School, which is a school zone here. It goes along to Route 20 and make a left turn. There is no incentive for them to go, and because there are increased conflict points. And so I'm just having the suggestion here that make the cross connection open to Al-Hamra and Academy driveway, and just make it an all-way stop. And because of the, you know, all pedestrian access, make it also equip it with sidewalk. In addition to channeling all the traffic, it's also calming the traffic because this is a school zone. So these are all my comments.
Thank you. Okay, who else? Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Stephanie Gogi. I'm a resident of 23 Appaloosa Drive, and here with my family, who is missing dinner for this. I really appreciate all the effort and thought that is going into this development, and I know this particular meeting is mostly about the traffic and the concerns for that. I just wanted to raise one point of concern for the further future of Shrewsbury in our town, and just raise again the issue that this is pristine forest land with 2 wetlands and 2 streams in there. It's trees and wildlife, and it has been untouched. It's not farmland. It's not previously developed land. It is pristine forest that has a lot of wildlife in it, and that it contributes to the overall health of the town of Shrewsbury. And I really appreciate that we're thinking traffic and future load of roads and people and safety and all of that. I really, obviously, having 3 kids, I really care about that as well. But I also care about the health of our Shrewsbury residents, and we're having less and less woods in our town. And I know we need growth, and I know we need developments, but I would highly encourage the town to consider other sites, and Pulte also sites that are potentially easier to develop without destruction of wild landscape and green space. For example, right across the street from Route 20, there is a site that's almost all field, and that was, I think, considered to be a new development for an above or like older living area. I don't know much about the site clearly, and I haven't done any of the traffic analysis and all of that, but that would seem like a much more suitable site for something this big in my lay perspective, and so I just wanted to raise that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
My name is Harvinder Singh Rayat, and I'm resident of 169 Green Street. So just wanted to reiterate and re-emphasize what some of my neighbors spoke about. And I've seen most of the focus of the traffic study was connecting to Route 20. And I saw less of on the other direction, right, going from Green Street towards Grafton. That is very dangerous road, as my neighbor spoke about. There is no, it's not even a divided lane. And when the two cars are crossing each other, you have to be careful you're not knocking away somebody's mailbox on the side. So is the traffic study done in that direction? I'm pretty sure Pulte that would be one of the selling points about the proximity to the Grafton station. And the closest way, by avoiding the lights, the signal, would be going on the Green Street towards Grafton station. So I'm just wondering if some traffic that has got sufficient coverage in the traffic study.
The study was subject to peer review, and the basis that we used to estimate traffic south of the property, the Green Street to Grafton connection, including any trips that might be oriented to the Grafton station, are based on looking at existing travel patterns and journey to work information, or information that's relevant to where people work that live in Shrewsbury. And what we've determined based on that combination of data is that there's a very small percentage of the residents of this site that would be inclined to travel south. There will be some folks who use the train, no doubt, but that percentage is not a high percentage. And the employment centers are oriented to the Route 20, Route 9 corridor, not the Grafton Street, Route 30 corridor. So we've accounted for that, we've estimated it. The numbers are relatively small, but they do exist. There will be some traffic that's generated in that direction. So again, that was subject to peer review. I think there's concurrence on the methods that we've used to estimate that, and I think we've presented it reasonably, understanding that traffic studies are not an exact science. The 5 cars an hour might be 7 or 8 or 10, but the point is that it's a low volume.
Okay, anyone else? Sir?
Sorry, I forgot to mention 2 other things while I was talking. One of them is that there's a very, and this is something that I request the town to do something about. There's a lot of trucks and high-speed SUVs and things like that cut the red signal on Route 20 because they have the speed, they have the size, and the crash report. I was going to say, if we all just did what is right and just took off at the green signal, there would be a lot more crashes. I can speak for most people. We all stop for a few seconds, watch left and right. People don't stop. And if we didn't do that, the crash report would have been showing bigger numbers. Someone should take account of that. And I request the town to have some kind of camera to capture these people and not, they kind of have no concern for people's safety. That's one. And the second thing is there's a sharp kink at the on Green Street at the Appaloosa end of it, and that's just narrow enough for 2 cars. And people don't realize, or they sometimes speed, and it's a place for great danger for with increased traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
English is not my first language, so bear with me. We were in a crash.
Could I ask you for your name and address, please?
Evelyn Lucena. I live in 3 Appaloosa Drive.
Great, thank you.
So statistics are numbers, but when you live it, it's different. Right now, my family don't use South Street to get to our house because we were rear-ended. My daughter was driving. We were in the car, and it's really hard to make a left there because people are coming 50 miles per hour you know? And so if there's not that many crashes, you can count us not coming from there. We're going to Walnut Street just to get our house. So now we're adding 300 more units. I honestly, you have to drive there to see the situation of the road. It's not easy. Even an experienced driver, I don't drive there. You know, I have to go to Walnut Street to get to my house, and then to get out, I will go to the right just to, you know, because you cannot make a left. People still do it. So it's hard. It's a mess. That's the, you know. So hopefully, I don't know if the corridor is going to help, but I don't see how, because I see all the talk is about getting out. I don't see about getting in. How many cars with those lanes will allow to get to the left? You know what I mean? So, thank you so much. I just, you know, safety should be a main consideration here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
But thank you again. Just talking about statistics, and my wife and my daughter, that's probably about 8 or 9 years ago, but maybe shorter, was really ended very badly on South Street. It's on Route 20 because again, so and then when they try to come back to the South Street, so rear-ended car spined, almost totaled Honda CR-V. So. But again, just I'm a statistician, so and but I just want to add a little piece of information.
Thank you.
But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Sir? This is great. We have a young citizen who's going to address us. This is great.
Yeah, so
Could we get your name and your address, please?
Alexander Gogay, 23 Appaloosa Drive. It was just a small confusion about the connector road. So during the presentation, it seemed like something that had not been approved yet, but living there and seeing, obviously, it has already begun. Like, the trees have already been started to been cleared for construction of it. So that was just a small confusion.
You're asking why have they started to remove trees when the project has not been approved? It's a good question. Do we have an answer?
I can respond to
Please.
that. I'm assuming that the location that you're referring to is an area that we needed to get into to do test pits. So there was some minor tree removal associated with that, and along Green Street there was an area just where the trucks were entering in, where we moved some trees in that section just to get access to the site.
That's a very good question. Anyone else that wishes to comment? Okay. I think that represents.
I just have a question.
Sure.
These comments will get addressed? How do we get to what's the outcome on these comments?
So we're all listening, they're all listening, peer review's listening. How they actually individually get addressed, not a specific answer for you. I hope that the developers are making a lot of notes, copious notes, on all the concerns you have specific to Green Street in particular. There's not a formal process to, unless you go on record, and thank you for going on record with a really comprehensive email. That's very helpful to everybody. I would encourage you to continue to do that so that we have continuous commentary on things that the neighbors are concerned about. And the process, we do have the open forum. I think that everyone's been heard, and we want to continue to hear you. Next month's meeting will revolve around, we're water sewer next week. Okay, so we have.
Or next month.
Next month, excuse me. So our March meeting will be water sewer, which I would encourage you to all participate in. And then the meeting after that is architecture.
That was the last planned structured theme, but whatever the board
Okay.
sees fit.
Okay, all right. I would just encourage you to continue to engage with your questions. Is there anybody else that has a better answer than I've given already?
I would also highly encourage, it may have been a little difficult to see with the presentation, but going on MassDOT's website and looking at the Route 20 improvements. I think some questions may be, or some concerns may be addressed by that project, hoping it keeps on track. We all know how state projects can be. And for reference, if you want it, the MassDOT project for the Route 20 is number 610825. I believe the website's fairly interactive. I've looked at different projects myself when you can search the website. So if you don't remember that number or can't find it, you should be able to search just by Route 20 and should be able to find it that way.
And if I, point of order, I guess.
Yes.
Sort of building on your question, I think a theme that I would draw from this is that there are a lot of very reasonable concerns about Green Street in particular, and also this stretch of South Street. So I have a question for the staff. When those kinds of concerns are raised and the town becomes aware of them, is there a process? What happens? How does the town look at various roads and, in light of development and in light of contextual changes, fix those roads to make them safer?
I have taken a lot of notes myself, and I will be happy to bring this back to the planning department and also DPW to then see what their process is. And I'm not an expert on how they look at the roads and what's next on the list of improvements, but I'm happy to have that conversation.
That's great.
And just to add to that, for the record, Attorney Christopher Alvin, one thing that can happen is we ask DPW for their own input on this, and they might have suggested conditions. And conditions obviously can be incorporated into a decision, and then that's a way of monitoring, and that the town can stay on top of it.
Thank you.
Quick question. In terms of the condition of Green Street and that continuation of pools of water that they're referring to, is that something that you take into consideration? You know, are you're aware that there's water that builds up there?
I'm not sure exactly the specific location that picture was taken from, but.
We can get that for you.
Sure, certainly. One thing that I can say is that one of the locations where the driveway is, we are significantly improving the stormwater management, coming down, where our driveway locations are, it's coming down the slope, and the northernmost, well, not the emergency egress, but the primary entrance will be incorporating significant stormwater improvements, as we discussed at our last meeting, that will, I'm not going to say we will solve that problem again, because I'm not sure exactly that location, but it will improve on the existing condition in that location today. So there are areas that we will be working on that will improve on the existing condition.
Which will reflect on our next meeting, which is stormwater management. So that would be a really important meeting for all of you to attend.
Or water sewer.
Water sewer.
Or water sewer, sorry. But still, they're managing that. Okay. All right, any other comments, board questions? Dave?
I actually have a lot. I don't know if I'm gonna hit all of it. First, I'll get a technical question out of the way. When you did the emergency vehicle access study, you looked at swing radius. Was there an analysis on pitch radius? Because it is a very unlevel site, and I just wanted to make sure that it was looked at, that the apparatus would make it up or down any sort of crests or dips.
The short answer is yes. The roadway grading is such that there aren't any abrupt change in grades that would cause a responding vehicle to either bottom out or fender out. In other words, the grading is such that when you go from one, say, downgrade to an upgrade, that it is designed in a way that has an appropriate sag curve, it's known as, or a crest curve. And those are designed specifically to eliminate the possibility of bottoming out or fendering out. So the grades are not an issue. I think the maximum grades are what on the driveways?
I want to say it was 8.
Yeah, I think it's 8.
And
Yeah.
just to build on what Bob's saying, you know, the vertical curvature of the road are done in a way that will meet or be lesser extreme than the allowed in the subdivision rules and regs roadway design for the town of Shrewsbury. So that which is designed to accommodate those emergency vehicles. So they will certainly, in all cases, exceed that, but certainly not. Oh, they'll be under that and not, go over what that allows for.
Okay. That's all I have for the technical stuff. A lot of the folks in the seats back there brought up a lot of really good points, and especially, with the follow-up and everything. I heard a lot of folks say that, well, from the lay perspective, from this and that, it's, I would just personally caution against that. There's no difference between any of you or any of us. And the only difference in reality is just that we're up here and you're back there. But it's not a qualification difference, right? You're not, I wouldn't say any of you are any less smart, qualified, or capable to do anything. And obviously one of you has gone through an extensive amount of homework to put together, an engineering report, even though you may or may not be an engineer. So that deserves congratulation. And, our role up here is, and if I speak freely, I hope to not go too rogue, but our role up here is to make sure that all the voices get heard and that the process goes correctly by the laws of the Commonwealth and by the bylaws of the town and all of that. And one thing that I would love to do up here is beat you guys up as an applicant over traffic, because Route 20 is a mess. But like I told another applicant this evening, is that I can't hold the problems of Route 20, which has thousands of drivers every day that have nothing to do with your project. I literally just can't hold that 100% against you. You're involved because you want to add units, and the residents know this, and the data demonstrates that the increase is not overly substantial, right? And I'm an engineer. I went to school for engineering, so I have to agree with the data. But man, it does not pass the sniff test, right? To tell if it smells sour. And roads like Appaloosa are now like Gage Lane in the center of town. They're now like Gale Ave to get to Oak Middle School from Old Mill. It's a cut through, and nobody who bought a house on a road that wasn't a cut through, that is now a cut through, likes it. And I completely empathize with all of the folks back there. And when I empathize with when you hear the level of service at the Green Street light is a C, and it's doing great. I was like, well, nobody feels good about that. At least I don't. And I should try to speak for myself, but I just know if I brought home a C to my parents when I was a kid, they would not be happy about it. But I also know that's an industry thing. The infrastructure in this country, across the board, across the Commonwealth, across the board, is in a rough state. I could talk about we talked about crash numbers, but what about crash severity? What about near misses? What about this? At the end of the day, like I said, the data's there. I think I could point out some gut check issues. Like, we shouldn't really consider 2020 or 2021 data, in my opinion, because those are COVID years, and we're out of that. I know when I was commuting the entire time as an essential employee through COVID, it was great. It was the only positive thing for me that COVID brought, was that my commute went from 90 minutes to 45 at that time. And that was going from Worcester to to Norwood, right? So the Route 20 improvements are critical to this, absolutely critical. They may or may not make this little bypass road irrelevant, but it's like too far down the road for me to really pass a judgment on your project based off of that. For me, the Route 20 improvements are absolutely critical because, I mean, I've driven it from 146 all the way to South Street, and then down Chestnut over to the Up and Play Academy, back down through Walnut, through South Street, to go back to my home, which is near the Whole Foods. And I could use other words, but to quote a resident, it's a mess. And it needs improvement. I think it's a positive thing that your project is lining up at the same time as a Route 20 improvement, because in my opinion, and again, I speak for myself, I think if you didn't have those Route 20 improvements, this would be a more difficult process. I appreciate the board for letting me kind of ramble on like this, but really, I just wanted to say that the data is the data, but the data doesn't make the residents feel good as they voiced. And I think, you know, that's why we do this whole process, because they have to be heard. So, that's really all I got. I think that the last thing I'll say is that I think as of everything I've seen so far, I think your project is good, but I think it's gonna increase a traffic amount, some amount. It's just, when you start talking about averages, and you're like, okay, so the average includes the midnight hour, right? So, or the average includes this, or it doesn't, or it doesn't. But, yeah, I apologize for the rambling, but.
No rambling.
I'm just trying to give some of the folks in the back of the room, a little bit of a handshake to say, like, all right, I get it. I lived on a cut through for many, many years, and it was terrible. So I empathize.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So it looks like we're going to wrap up for tonight.
Yep.
We will see you again on March 25th. And again, citizens, put your thoughts down in writing. We read your emails, everyone on staff reads your emails, so you're making some good points. We appreciate all your time, appreciate peer review time, and we'll see you again next month.
Great, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
very
time
much.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you just wanna,
Can I get a motion to, before we continue, is there something you wanted to say within the context? Okay.
I move to continue the hearing to March 25th at 6:30 p.m.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have a motion to adjourn.
We have new business.
Yes, you can email ZBA staff at shrewsburyma.gov.
Sorry, put my picture away. Okay, moving on to new business. First item on the agenda, clerk needs to sign approved ZBA rules and regulations that were approved in 2023. Louise?
Yep. Just a clerical mistake on my end. It was approved and we never actually had them signed in, so that, everything stayed the same from the last time you saw them.
We don't need a vote or anything, it's just my signature. Done.
Okay, so Peter's taking care of that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then review and act on comprehensive permit peer review fees, please.
So, with this, the ZBA, Shrewsbury ZBA comprehensive permit rules and regulations note that the board sets the peer review fee amount. They, have their application fee, but the set review amount, just needs to be set. You can set it, and then we will Pulte will, replenish
We set the peer review fee?
amount. Yep, and they will replenish it as needed. So when we have comment letters back and forth, we'll get invoices and we'll send that to Pulte, and they will, if it can't go beneath a certain percentage.
So it's an ongoing process?
Correct.
Okay, and
So
is there a recommendation on what that number should be?
15,000 would be a good starting point.
Okay, so we need a motion to,
Is it set aside, appropriate? What's the right verb? Designate?
Designate.
I move to designate $15,000 for peer review fees in relation to the, what's the name of the project?
Emerald
Run,
Run.
to the Emerald Run project at 33 through 69 Green Street.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved?
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.